Hey makers and breakers. Today I wanted to share a little bit about color theory. There's a lot out there in color theory and it's very confusing. So this is my little explanation. So we have different colors. We use HSL, hue, saturation, lightness, 75. This one's 50 and then the other one is 25. So you can see how that works. The problem with building a design system with using purely lightness is that our eyes don't perceive each color equally. So I have a filter here, and when I go over it, you can see that the blues are a lot darker than the yellows. So why is that important? Well, if we go down here, it's a thing called contrast. If you have white text on a blue background, it meets your accessibility guidelines, whereas if you have white text on a yellow background, it doesn't. So we can do that. So how do we solve this? Well, we go to something like this, where we hand pick every shade, adjust the value of the lightness to make sure that it meets the base. So zero saturation is the base. And what that looks like when we get the contrast is like this. You can see that the yellow isn't quite as a beautiful yellow as we wanted, and the blue is slightly desaturated, but that's okay because it meets the accessibility guidelines. So what does this look like in an application? I just got to find it. Here we go. So I have created some demos and some things we can click around on and experiment with. This is our color, so my color test environment. We have two different ways of viewing this. We have the Pantone and the wave. This is the wave, and the Pantone shows you the variable. So this is your color primary 800, 900, and 950. And these 9 of these numbers correlate to the contrast. I like the wave because it shows me all my different colors, and this is based on lightness. So you can see this looks very, say, matte. It looks like there's a gradient, it all makes sense. But when we chuck on our grayscale filter, you can see that the blues are pretty dark and the yellows are very light. We can also go into our luminance, and here we can see that the bands are relatively close to each other. When we turn grayscale off, we can see that blue has a lot more saturation in the darker ends, and yellow maintains its saturation more on the darker ends. So what we can do, I'm just going to jump onto this and let's have a look at this Bumble. So Bumble is a brand. It's got a yellow primary color, which is usually quite difficult to account for. And we also have it in the Luminance version, where you can see it's slightly darker in the yellow. We can go through different elements. Let's have a look at the alerts. So when we are in the lightness version, we can see that the alerts are like this. When we pop grayscale on, we can actually see that the what do we call this? The info color is quite dark, and the danger is quite dark. Whereas when we go into luminance, we can see that they're all relatively equal to each other. And we can do this for all the elements. We even can go into our page. So we can go into, I believe it's this page, and see what this looks like with the luminance versus the lightness. And it's very interesting to see that the luminance maintains its contrast over different brands. So we have a brand Unmio, which is one of the brands that they have developed internally, and these are what the colors looks like. So that is a tiny bit on color theory, on luminance and lightness, and also showcasing a little bit about how we can use dynamic colors, how we can use CSS variables to generate all of this. I'd also like to show you a little about the CSS. So how we do this with the wave I'll show you I'm just going to go back into the colors, into the wave, pop this on the wave, the luminance wave, this one and this one. How this is calculated is two different mix-ins. The first mix-in is the wave, so we have the baseline, 0 saturation, we have secondary, we just up this 30, 60, 90, 120, and so on, so we can get all the different colors. And we have a mix-in that is shades, and we also have a mix-in that is origin. And for the branding, we do something similar. We have some hex codes, we use some HSL codes, we use some text just to test that it's sturdy. And similar, we have the shades and the shades origin. To calculate the shades, the default ones, we just use a loop and we just make the lightness this amount, go 95, 900, go through it. And for the other one where we actually calculate the luminance, that's quite an interesting one, which I'm also not going to show you guys. So if you'd like to know more about how to do this, hit me up and we can have a chat. Cool, I hope you enjoyed this little video trying to explain what luminance is and lightness. And see you in the community.